Moving on to Ward 1. This will be the city council member that specifically is supposed to represent the people who live inside of Ward 1 here. It goes all the way from southeast St. Elizabeth Hospital area, like Calder, kind of close to, the Oaks. Is that what that area is called? Like Calder and 11th Street. It goes from there. Parkdale Mall is kind of in the middle of it, up, past 105, down like past Praise Church, all the way up to Pine Island Bayou. And if you live anywhere inside of Ward 1, you will have the opportunity to vote for Doug Dibadome or the Crypt Keeper, Cory Crenshaw or Mark Stiles. Full disclosure, Cory Crenshaw is my uncle. I know. Cory's great. I like Cory. I like Cory as a person. I like him as an uncle. He is one of my favorite uncles. He's on Facebook a lot. Maybe you know him from all of his many Facebook posts that he makes there. But the race here, he's running for city council member for Ward 1. Like I said, full disclosure, I am his relative, so I'm probably biased about this one. Not that I've been biased about any of the other ones. There were the races between Cory Crenshaw and Mark Stiles. We're going to talk about each one of them. Cory, out of all of the candidates that we've talked about so far, is probably one of the most qualified to hold public office, to run for public office. He has been a federal prosecutor for the Southern and Eastern Districts of Texas. He served as Jefferson County's district attorney. He served as judge of Jefferson County Court of Law Number 2, and he's the founder of his own law firm, Crenshaw Law Firm. He's been involved in local government for a long time. And so certainly from that proximity would have a good understanding of what it takes to govern effectively. He is endorsed by the Firefighters Union, and that's an important endorsement here because I think of all of these candidates, certainly the ones that have been endorsed by the Firefighters Union have advocated for the Firefighters Union, but Cory has really gone toe to toe. Especially, we're going to read some of this Facebook interaction here. We're going to read this Facebook interaction here. This is Mike Getz posting. We're not going to read this whole thing. But Mike Getz is frustrated that you can, it's on the screen. You can read it if you want to. Mike Getz is frustrated that the Beaumont Firefighters Union is like taking sides in politics and getting involved in local politics, and is frustrated that they are seemingly using this tragedy for public gain. There was a man who got hit on the road by a car, and a ambulance was not able to get to his location because the EMS has, like I said, been horribly mismanaged by Kenneth Williams. Not that I'm saying that Kenneth Williams is directly responsible for this man dies, and I'm not saying that Kenneth Williams is responsible for his death, but Kenneth Williams' mismanagement of EMS and the way that EMS has not been fully integrated into the fire department has certainly caused ambulance units to get tied up for longer than they should have in certain areas. Mike Getz says, actually it's fine that an ambulance didn't show up here for 30 minutes. The position of the Beaumont Professional Firefighters Local 399, and parroted by my opponent, he's talking about Joey Hilliard. We're going to talk about him in a minute. Parroted by my opponent, is that the outcome may have been different if an EMS unit had been immediately available to transport the person. No, it wouldn't have mattered if an EMS unit showed up immediately instead of showing up 30 minutes later. When a person sustains this type of injuries, as in this case, you don't just scoop them up, load them onto an ambulance, and rush them to the hospital. You immediately begin life-saving efforts at the scene and try to stabilize their condition. That is what happened in this case. In fact, when the EMS unit did arrive, the paramedic was still working to stabilize the citizen, and it was a few minutes before the paramedic declared he was stable for transport. There was an individual who was able to arrive at the scene, not the ambulance. a private citizen who was able to get to the scene and help this person. But ultimately, they ended up dying whenever they were transported to the hospital. Cory replies to Mike Getz here saying, "So do you deny that it took 30 plus minutes for an ambulance to arrive at the scene of this tragedy, regardless of whether the person would have passed or not? That's not acceptable. How about Dr. Ray Callis, who didn't get an ambulance and had to crawl to a private car to be rushed to the ER, or Jennifer Gordy, who couldn't get an ambulance for her dad? How many will you need before you get it through your thick head that our fire department is mismanaged and we need change? Good grief, Mike." So they have a whole back and forth here. My point is, Cory has a large platform on Facebook, and he'd be posting. But he uses that large platform to actively work to defend the Beaumont firefighters. And I think that's a really positive thing. I can only imagine that he's going to do that more if he is elected to his position on city council. So this endorsement from the firefighters union is a big deal for him. He's also endorsed by former council member for Ward 1. He's running for the position for Ward 1. The council member who is not choosing to seek re-election has endorsed Cory. Taylor Neild has endorsed Cory, and is his campaign manager, which is crazy because, like, in this debate that Channel 6 did between Cory and Mark Stiles tried to be like, I only ran for Ward 1 city council member because Taylor Neild suggested that I do so, like implying to me that Taylor Neild like supported Mark Stiles, Mark Stiles in his campaign, and Cory like had to like correct him live on the air. He's like Taylor Neild is like my campaign manager. He supports me. Taylor Neild had to like put out this whole statement being like, I support Cory Crenshaw for Ward 1. I don't support Mark Stiles. That's a crazy story. So it's notable that he is endorsed both by the firefighters and by Taylor Neild. It's also really notable that he's endorsed by Taylor Neild because of the city council members who have been antagonistic towards Kenneth Williams' management. Taylor Neild is one of those people. He didn't vote to hire him. He didn't vote to approve any of his budgets. He didn't vote to give him a raise. And so because Taylor Neild is supporting Cory, that feels like Taylor Neild feels that implies to me that Taylor Neild feels like Cory will also play an antagonistic role towards Kenneth Williams. One of his priorities is fiscal responsibility. Again, talking about this antagonistic role that I'm hoping Cory will play towards Kenneth Williams. One of his priorities for fiscal responsibility, one of his priorities is fiscal responsibility, and he highlights that the $3.5 million budget deficit. He highlights the $3.5 million budget deficit and advocates for balanced budgets and reducing administrative costs. Like, he's directly talking about Kenneth Williams, like an enormous pay, and kind of, I think, implying here that Kenneth Williams should not make as much. Cory proposes establishing a citizens committee to review the city budget, aiming to cut waste. I think that sounds great. Incorporating more of the citizens' say into the process of Kenneth Williams making his ridiculous budget, I think would only serve to create even more momentum against Kenneth Williams getting what he wants with these ridiculous budgets that he keeps on putting out. So Cory is endorsed by the firefighters, is seemingly antagonistic towards Kenneth Williams, is endorsed by a city council member who is antagonistic towards Kenneth Williams, and has like already gone out to fight for the firefighters, and presumably will do so if elected to city council. Cory is one of the most qualified candidates for city council. His opponent is also a pretty qualified candidate for city council. Mark Stiles served as state representative for District 21 in the Texas House of Representatives. So Dade Phelan is the District 21 representative right now. Mark Stiles was the Dade Phelan before Dade Phelan. Even though Mark Stiles, to the extent of my knowledge, was never Speaker of the House like Dade Phelan is. In his time in the Texas House of Representatives, he authored 157 bills that became law and 6 Texas constitutional amendments, including a ban on state income tax without voter approval, which is stupid. Income tax is is a progressive form of taxation that puts the bulk of the burden of raising revenues on wealthier people as opposed to poorer people, whereas property taxes put more of the burden on poor people than rich people, which is why Texas has property taxes and doesn't have income taxes, and has outright, Mark Stiles was like campaigning against income taxes by passing this constitutional amendment. But since then, we've passed another constitutional amendment. He said a ban on state income tax without voter approval, so voters would have to approve it. Since then, we've passed a constitutional amendment just banning a state income tax, even if voters want it or try to vote for it. Now you have to pass a constitutional amendment, a Texas constitutional amendment, before you can have income tax, which is ridiculous. And he was the group president of Trinity Industries Incorporated, which is like a train car. I don't think they manufacture train cars, but they like do maintenance and repair work on train cars and stuff like that. They service train cars. He is not endorsed by the firefighters union. His priorities are infrastructure development. Surprise, surprise. He supports the first responders, but again is not endorsed by the firefighters union. And he supports initiatives like developing a downtown hotel and convention center to boost economic development and foot traffic in the area. Why do we need a hotel downtown? That's like the city council's new pet project is they're trying to pass funding to build a private public partnership to build a hotel downtown and like add that connected to like the convention center and stuff. And Mark Stiles supports that. So if you think that sounds like a good idea, maybe you want to vote for him. But those are your two candidates for Ward 1 council member, Cory Crenshaw and Mark Stiles.